be thinking more about your thinking, choosing where you actually put your focus. And I want to make one more point about that. There's a framework I found really helpful. You might appreciate this. There are essentially three kind of intensities or depths of thinking that you can do. Think of it very simply as level 1, 2, and 3. It's an easy thing to remember. Level 1 is the real simple stuff. So if I say to you, when can you delete emails? You'll probably say, I can delete emails no matter what, any time of day, any time of night. If I'm, wake up in the middle of the night, I'm tired, kids have woken me up, I can always go to my computer and delete emails. It's a wonderful thing. That's level 1, okay? Excuse me. So level 1 kind of thinking doesn't take a lot of time or effort. Level 2 is scheduling that meeting we've been talking about. Level 3, this is where we have to actually maybe write a proposal, do some deeper thinking, maybe have some kind of breakthrough, do something creative. Now what happens is we tend to get to work, do all our level 1 tasks and all our level 2 tasks, really exhaust the brain's energy resources, and then do level 3 with what's left. And this doesn't work very well for trying to undertake complex tasks. So respecting that our thinking capacity is limited has you rearrange your whole day, really, has you rearrange your workload. And one of the obvious sort of takeaways from this is, well, we should prioritize more. Well, here's the challenge. Prioritizing is a level 3 task, maybe level 3 squared. It's very difficult. You've got to imagine every task, you've got to picture it, make decisions. It's like a stage with lots and lots of actors. And if you don't prioritize while your brain is rested, while you have the energy to do it, it literally doesn't get done. So just understanding the limitations of the brain seems to be very, very helpful. Let's move on to the second one. So the first limitation is the brain uses energy to do conscious tasks. The second is that working memory, or the prefrontal cortex, is small in terms of how much information we can hold at once. So going back to going back to math, you can hold 4 digits in mind, you can add them up, kind of just, but that's a tiny amount of information compared to how much information there is in most average business decisions. Most average business decisions have far more data that you're trying to process, far more data to kind of hold and do things with. And a lot of them we literally just kind of can't think about. It's too much space required. It's like trying to put a really complex calculation through a very, very small, simple calculator. It just kind of freezes up. So in the end, excuse me, in the end, a lot of the time we end up not actually processing fresh. We end up kind of using previous patterns and doing things automatically because we just don't have the space to process information correctly. Now, a remedy for this, literally break things down into chunks. Your brain can work in 4 chunks, 3 chunks, 2 chunks, much, much easier. Any more than 4 starts to fall apart. Break things up into chunks. Use visuals. Every time you use visuals, either inside your head, you're using the very, very strong, very robust circuitry of the occipital lobe, the visual lobe. Or if you can use visuals outside of your head, whiteboards, papers, computers, every time you're getting things out of your head, you're freeing up space for other tasks. So save your processing power and processing space for just the right decisions. The third limitation's something we all hit up against all the time. You can't schedule 2 meetings at once. You kind of know that, and yet we try to do the equivalent all the time. You can schedule 1 meeting, then you can schedule the next meeting, you can schedule the next meeting. But when you have to make decisions, it's one at a time. There is no way around that. And if you try to kind of make 3 decisions at once, you get into a big problem. In fact, they've studied this and found there is no time saving of multitasking from multitasking if accuracy is important. Accuracy doesn't matter, you make mistakes all the time, multitask till the cows come home. If accuracy is important, you must actually do one thing at a time. Now, there's sort of a interesting part of that though. If a task can be sort of routinized or made habitual, if you can sort of do it physically somehow, the physical processes that we have can very much be pushed down into the hard wiring. If you watch a piano player, there's obviously a huge amount they're not thinking about when they're playing piano. So, for example, for me, I can respond to an email with an affirmative without really thinking about it, just literally with keystrokes. I can press reply, smiley face, and send. in less than 1 second with almost no attention. And I've been able to create routines out of that, so I can somewhat be putting my attention elsewhere while I do that. So anything that you've done over and over, if you can create a routine that you can follow without thinking, then it sort of is a little bit like multitasking to a degree, but again, you're going to have some problems. The final one is a little more complex, but this ability to hold information in mind, this kind of conscious ability, requires just the right neurochemistry. We have to have just the right levels of two chemistries in particular. Dopamine, which is involved in being interested. Hopefully I'm keeping your interest at the moment. If you're interested in what I'm saying, your dopamine levels are higher. Dopamine and norepinephrine. And norepinephrine is more alertness. It's brain adrenaline. It's kind of that on the edge of your seat that you get when you're watching a scary movie or you're thinking about a deadline. You're kind of alert and you're focused. And in order to use our conscious processes well, to make decisions and those linear decisions we talked about, we have to have pretty good levels of both dopamine and norepinephrine, but not too high. And the trouble is things like deadlines, stress, too many things going on, basically make especially the brain adrenaline too high, and the circuits start to fall apart.